Step one, we're going to remove the wheels. It's pretty straightforward and easy. 22 millimeter lug nuts. Shout out to Danny Amaro for doing this. You guys know what we're doing. Alright, so the next step here is to remove the back bumper. So what we do is we've got two T15 Torxes on the bottom, and there are two more on the other side. That allows the bottom of the rear diffuser to release. And then on the inside, you can see we have a 7 millimeter screw. That comes down, and that'll let the splash guards come off. And those guys are 7 millimeter screws. Quick to come out. And then on this side, once you take the 7 millimeter screw out, these guys just pull off. Okay. Just like that. Easy peasy. T15 Torx. Two of those guys. So now we're going to remove the, there's a T15 Torx here, and there's one right here. When you pull those off, then you can get inside the fender liner, and then we'll get to the stuff up top. Let's do this so you can see it.
Just to the right?
That's it. Should be just two. And then this guy pulls out. Oh, you can take, yeah, if you would take that one out too. As a cautionary measure, we can take this guy and this guy out as well, to give us a little bit more room back here. There we go. So now this guy, we can push it back a little bit, and then we're up inside. So up inside, we have a, let me see if I get the camera in there. We have a, so I'm trying to set it so you guys can see, but there are also two 7 millimeter screws that physically hold the bumper cover to a corresponding bracket on the car. In this picture here, you can see both. So there, you can see up there, straight up and in, and they're present on both sides. So make sure you remove them and reinstall them. Ready? Come on, you. There we go. There's a 10 millimeter long stud right there. They're a little bit difficult to get off, but once you got some tools, you're alright. So up inside where the bumper meets the car, you've got this 10 millimeter nut, and you've also got two 7 millimeter there and there screws that need to come out. They're on both sides of the car. There's a lot more room on the driver's side than the passenger side, but save for an extra 5 minutes of effort. It's pretty straightforward. Just don't forget. So here we've got more T15 Torxes. So these guys run all the way across the back. So you've got a 10 millimeter on the inside. You've got a 10 millimeter on the inside. You've got two 7 millimeters. You've got some of the 7 millimeters of T15 Torxes on the inside. And then when these guys come across the top, you're pretty much ready to yank this guy off. Very, very simple. So there are two here. So these ones are harder to see, and on the convertibles it's a little bit of a tricky part because the trunk lid is real short, and you've got the little the pistons that hold it up. So this guy's pretty straightforward. You have to take a little bit more care on the hardtop convertibles. Just a little bit less room.
All right.
Okay.
Now we good?
Yep, you should be able to come up and off. And then there are,
Oh, we have
let me come around. Yeah, those guys are spacers, so just keep an eye on those. So what happens here, you got, this guy comes off, so you got one clip here, this same clip on this side, and then you've got one in the center is this little guy right here.
This little right?
This little guy right here.
Okay.
So this is why you need a third set of hands when you put it back on the car.
Yeah.
2 people to hold it, and then someone else to clip it in, and then you put it back on the car. Right, yeah, this is a part where you need an extra set of hands. Whoop, and just like that, we're out.
The thing with this connector, remove the connector.
All right. Victory! All right, so from here, we're gonna flip the bumper over and we're gonna take the nut and the stud out. There's a bolt, nut and a stud and a bolt. So this guy, we have to flip it over on its back so we have access to the rear of the car. Or rear of the bumper. Push it very hard. There, you heard it there, guys. You have to push very hard to get those connectors off. Flip it over, guys. There we go. So now from here, we're prepping the bumper for the wing install. So what happens here is you have to take the taillights out. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe it is, T15 Torx.
This one,
yeah,
no?
you can take it out. Yep,
Okay.
you can take that out. And then same thing on the other side.
Which Torx? 7
Oh,
millimeters.
I'm sorry, they're 7. They're not
Oh,
T15. I'm
right.
sorry.
It made me think.
I'm
I said,
T15 all the time.
What
It's 7.
he's seeing that I did.
7 millimeter. 7 millimeter. Sorry, so here we take the 7 millimeter bolt out so we can remove the taillights because that gives us access to the back of the car for the purposes of templating and installing the rear support for the actual wing itself. The right tools for the right job. So we always say that, right?
That's important.
GM making you work for it. That's why these cars don't rattle and squeak as much as the other ones did. There you go. Coming out. Easy peasy. One more. Out.
Yep.
Bam. So from here,
That's
in order to remove the other wing, the factory wing, you've got a 10 millimeter nut, a 10 millimeter bolt, a 10 millimeter bolt, a 10 millimeter bolt,
10, 10, 10.
and then a 10 and a 10. So to make this part easier, what you can do is you can take this third brake light out,
Okay.
and that gives us access to these bolts right here.
Got it. Sí.
So you take the 10 millimeter out. I'm sorry, 7 millimeter out to get access to the 10 millimeter. So there's one here, one here, one here, one here, and one there.
Every
10 millimeter, they all come
right?
out. Yep, all 10.
$6.
All right, now moment of truth. We ended up eating a little humble pie here because it didn't come off nearly as easily as we'd expected. We used a credit card and pried between the bumper and the wing, and the stud is really what holds everything in place. So once you release one end of it, it walks all the way across with a firm pull. Not that difficult, but man, we were not prepared for this. So the trick here, guys, is once we get one side loose, now just walk it across the car. We'll worry about taking the tape off later.
Okay.
But now, just give it a pull, pull. Scariest part of the whole project, guys. This takes a little bit of effort. There we go. We go to the next one. There we go, and then one more. So the ones on the end are a little bit more of a challenge. There we go.
Yep.
Because they have the stud. The stud gets in the way. So now we'll come through, we'll get this, we'll wipe that down, we'll clean that up, and we'll get the new wing back on. So, back in a second. So in order to prep the back of the car to install the bracket, you got to take the little holder guys out. Sorry, you got to take the little hooks. I can't remember what they're called, guys. I'm sorry, brain's not working. And then we pull back because we're going to need access to the inside part of the car here, and we'll show you what that is in just a second. So here you can see we include with the hardware pack some blue thread lock and these M8 by 1.25 screws. These bolts go through the deck or through the bumper cover into the wing, and everything gets held in place. We pre-assemble the wing, the bracket, and everything else, and then that goes on the car for fitment, which we'll show you in a second. So you can see there is some tape on the bottom. We'll pull that off last. And hold on. All right, so we're going to thread lock. These guys. A little bit of Loctite. Probably too much. Here, again, you guys know that anymore. Alright, so now the way this works. Way.
You're there. Yep. Have to press.
One. Sure. Think. This takes a little bit of pressing. There we go. All right, so there's that. Excellent. So now.
Here.
Side note, one of the things you can do to make it a little easier, we use these M8 by 125 stainless bolts to hold it in. If you want to ream the hole a little bit here, it'll just make it a little bit easier for you to fit the bolts in, because otherwise it's a little bit of a tight fit. There, see, that just makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to, but it's a thing that you can do. It's a nice to do. So for this part, it's super important that you don't try to use a machine, some sort of a drill or something like that to install this guy, because what happens is you can cross-thread it very easily. You have to make sure and take your time to get this guy super square. So you go through the bracket, you go through the car, through the bumper cover I should say, and then into the wing, and you have to start this by hand to make sure that you're in the right spot. There's our guy. Perfect. Sweet. One more. Again, make sure you're using thread lock so this thing doesn't come off at high speed or at slow speed or at all. Just like that. Good snugging. You don't want to over tighten it to the point where you strip it, but it needs to be reasonably tight.
Up.
Let's not be animals. And over tighten it and rip it out though.
Luego aquí también. Es un posición. Okay.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick the bumper up, we're going to put it back on the car because we're going to use these guys as witness marks. So first, let's put the third brake light back in. There we go. So as you can see, everything is clearance. You don't have to cut anything, and it all fits. You just have to wiggle and take your time getting that third brake light back in, and then you can run all your 7mm screws. And then we tighten up our Torx. Again, not Torx. I keep saying Torx, guys.
It's 7.
As you can see, when you tighten it down, it gives you all the access and all the room that you need to get a straight shot at these bolts. If you guys get into a situation where you feel like you're cutting something, call us. Something's not right. You're going down the wrong path. All right, so now we're going to put it back up on the car. Take all of our stuff out of here, do a little bit of cleaning up. I'll give you that. And I think that should do it. So now we carefully put the bumper back up and on. We want to slide this over the top. You want to put the bumper back in place as if you're actually installing it. But if you notice, the tail lights are out. There we go. A little bit here, a little bit there. Something holding us up over here. So here we're taking a few seconds to align the bumper, and like we just said a few seconds ago in the video, make sure you lift up and slot the dowels back into the respective holes in the bumper. So now what we do is, if you look inside here, from the outside, you come in and you can see, this is why we leave the taillights out that way. There we go. So you can see here, where the bracket's at. So what we're gonna do now is you can see where the bracket's at, guys. We're gonna use a marker, we're gonna touch the inside of the hole there, and that's where we're gonna drill the hole that goes through the bulkhead, obviously not right here. That's gonna let us locate where the bolt comes back through the bulkhead, and that'll hold it to the car, and then it's all just reassembly at that point. All right, guys, so from here, now that we've made our marks, we take the bumper back off. We're gonna carefully set it aside on the stand, and you can see now where we have these two blue marks that we've made. We have a mark here, and we have a mark there. Those correspond with the actual bracket itself. So we can drill these holes, then we put everything back together, and there's one other step, and we'll show you that in a moment. All right, so for this part, this goes in, drops in, and we have another tool that we're gonna show you in a second. It's called a rib nut tool. You'll need one of those. You can get them at Harbor Freight for like 30 bucks. Side note, you need the 1/4-20 bit to make it work. There are a bunch more in there, but you only need that one. It squeezes this collar in place and lets this bolt pack from the inside of the car go through the rear bulkhead and in, and this ties the bracket to the wing, and it ties the bumper and the bracket into the actual physical car. I know some companies are using them where they're recommending no bracket at all. That's insane to me. We'd rather over-engineer than under-engineer. So we're gonna get back to the installation. Back in a minute. So here's where you drill your 11/32 hole. And if you notice, Danny's got his hand inside the carpet. You can drill a hole in the carpet if you want. We don't recommend it, but hey, you're modding the way you're modding. It's your car. There we go. And then these guys all line up, and then we'll put all the bolts back in. So when you put these taillights in, make sure you reconnect the harness for the taillights. I'm not going to say that I've done it, but I've definitely done it where I put the whole bumper back together and I forgot to hook the brake lights up, and then I drove the car and the car said, hey, your brake lights don't work. So yeah, let's not do that. So for this one, you got to thread it onto the tool. So open the tool all the way up, and then you tighten it all the way down, so that way when you squeeze the tool, it crimps it. There you go, make your adjustment, squeeze it, adjustment, So there's a point at which you can over tighten these guys, and it'll misshape the collar enough that you can't get the bolt back in. It'll actually crush the threads. So as long as you're careful about how you do it, you should be okay.
I think it's enough, right?
I think they will away.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
But it's good, yeah.
Alright, so there we go. So now everything goes back up on the car. We'll run the bolts in, and we start reassembly. Everything goes back in the same order that it came off now. So we're going to hang it up on the car. The bolts up top go in, the 20 or so T15 Torx. Hook up some connectors and clips, and we're on our way. So keep an eye on us. So for our next trick, you take these guys with the big plate, big fat washer. These guys go through the rear bulkhead, and put a little bit of thread lock on these guys as well, so you don't go back out, and everything gets installed. Second. All right, so from here, we're going to slow down a little bit. So there's your hole. Put the bolt in, and we're going to tighten it up, and you can see the plate. So at this point, we're just making sure we've got everything back in place. The bottom of the car on both sides. You've got a few 7mm screws that hold things in place. You've got to make sure the stone guards go back in, and the wheels back on the car. Put the wheels back on the car. What we didn't show you off camera was they get torqued to 140 pound-feet of torque. Use a torque wrench, and that's pretty much that. So once she's down on the ground, you can roll her away. Stay tuned for a finished project reveal.